Hello again, this is Jerry Reynolds, and you are tuning in to the Jerry Reynolds Show from the McCreary Studios in the site of the McCreary's Home Furnishings, the finest furniture anywhere in Sacramento, and that studio located in the back, a beautiful studio, and we are joined today with one of our favorites, Carmichael Dave. And really, we'll get into some very, very tough subjects with Carmichael Dave. Obviously, most of you know him as a celebrity on the 1140, 6 to 9, right,
Yes.
David?
Yes, 6 to 9.
Now, here's my first question.
Okay.
What's your last name?
My last name is German. It's Weiglin, but there's a reason why I use Carmichael Dave. So nobody...
No, I know why,
Why?
but go ahead. I think I do.
Well...
Because when you were like a young kid, you would call into the radio shows all the time.
Yes, sir.
And you, as Carmichael Dave.
Yes, sir.
And then you'd like to record it to
Yes.
Is that pretty much right?
You've done your homework. Yeah, I used to call in with Grant Coase, Jim Cosemore, and I started out as it was Dave and Carmichael, and I was 14, 15 years old. And after a while, it was Jason Ross and Steve Buzzard that were hosting the Kings postgame. I would always call in there. And they said, if you agree to call in every game, we'll put you first up after the game's over. Well, that was gold for a kid like me. So I'd hit record. You hit play and record at the same time on the boombox. I'd call in. I'd do my call. They eventually switched it from Dave and Carmichael to Carmichael Dave. And I bugged the heck out of them for years.
That's
so,
I mean, well, it's worked.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, the house payments go through, but it's been amazing. It's been a fun road, and now I'm in my 40s and getting older, but still around the.
Well, I was reading a thing too on you, which this was some years ago. An interview with you, and you weren't sure, just how long the radio thing was. And obviously, it's going very well, and but I think obviously it's a tough business, I guess, and so you just can't know for sure about anything, probably.
No, I've seen so many people come and go, and you never know. And I was, of course, I was fired briefly for about a year in 2013 when we had the ownership issues and the team going to Seattle, and I spoke out quite a bit. And the station's obviously a partner with the team, and that was a problem for the old ownership, and that's a whole different story. But
you mean the Maloofs were not in agreement with this stance you took?
No, they weren't. It's funny that they weren't. They were always very nice behind the scenes, but I think the powers that be didn't like me saying they were being crooks and threatening to take our team, which I know you very much remember that saga, and you and Grant were, I've always said, the biggest moment of that saga when you guys signed off. But I've seen too many people come and go. So I just, every morning I put my key fob up to the little beeper at the radio station, and I say a little prayer until it beeps green and opens the door, and I know I've got a job.
Then you know you're okay.
Yes,
well, that's not a bad strategy,
Yes,
really.
sir.
Now, I was thinking of some of the people that you've worked with over the years. I go back to what Dave or Geronimo.
Don Geronimo.
Don Geronimo. And
I started with Jason Ross and Steve Buzzard, Jim Cosemore, Grant Napier, Whitey Gleason, those guys in the mornings.
Whitey and
Whitey, you know them.
the Rise guys.
Yeah. Don, I worked with him for about 4 years. That was a total a break from the sports world. It was fun in itself, and I've done every shift on that station. I did 9 to midnight from 2004 to about 2010. Which is great because nobody was listening. No management was listening, so I could do whatever the heck I wanted.
Yeah.
And that's where I really learned how to deal on the radio, and then just kind of moved up from there. And now I'm doing the opposite. Now I'm in mornings.
It kind of reminds me a little bit. I mean, off this topic a little bit, but when I started running the Monarchs, it was so great because kind of like what you're talking about. The management didn't really care what it did.
Right.
They left me alone.
Right.
You know what I mean? For the first time, since I was a small college coach almost, you could do what you thought was best and how you wanted to do it.
Less politics.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, it's such a different edge, different feeling and comfort zone.
It is a comfort zone. That's the right way to put it. It's you can make mistakes, and I mean, to continue the analogy, it's like I think a basketball player that has the trust of his coach, where you can miss a few shots and not look over your shoulder to see if you're getting subbed out. Well, in this case, my coaches weren't even watching, so I could, I formed a very tight bond, I think, with our listeners, because I would come on a lot of times after games. We would, it's been mostly bad, unfortunately, record-wise for this team, and I started calling it Kingsaholics Anonymous for all of us Kings addicts that needed somewhere to go, and it's just kind of, we've tried to take some of the stuff from, mornings are different, everyone's listening, there's a lot more money from sponsors and rules and regulations and all that, I can't be as freewheeling as I was at night, but it does pay better. Mm-hmm. And my wife likes that.
Oh,
so and now
that's important. Yeah.
I didn't have kids when I was doing 9 to midnight. I had my daughter right at the end of my deal. But when I first started, the old program director, you remember Mike Ramey?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, who was
great guy,
huge mentor to me.
Really a fan of Mike.
Oh, he's awesome, and he gave me a shot. He believed in me, and he said, "Well, Dave, I can give you the job. It's going to pay $22,000 a year." And there's no benefits, but you'll get your own spot. And so I had to work 2 jobs for the longest time. Finally, I ended up being, for about a year, I would go to KHTK and work 9 to 5 as a sales guy so I could get benefits because I had a baby girl. And then I would go home for a few hours and then come back and do the 9 to midnight show. I was the worst salesperson in the history of that place. I didn't know how to sell anything, and I'm trying to sell me and everybody else. And but you do what you do, as you know.
Yes.
You do what you do to chase your dream and to make things work.
Well, that's the thing. It's always interesting that, just talking with different people in your business, and some of the, they'll have similar stories.
Sure.
I mean, of the take any job in order to prove yourself.
Yeah.
Make a living, the whole bit. I mean, and I think too, in my mind, there's so many young people they want the finished result without going through the steps. And I mean, it just doesn't work that way.
No, and I mean, some of these young people are going to watch right now and think there's a couple old men talking about the younger generation and blah, 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 but it's really true. I used to hide from my boss when payroll came around. I had another job, and I would write down less hours than I worked because I was afraid that if I got too expensive, he wouldn't let me work any more shifts. And I've worked radio stations where I made $5.25 an hour, and I slept in my Toyota Corolla because I was working a split shift. I mean, the things I'm sure you've done through the years are crazy as well. You do whatever it takes to make yourself, what do they say in basketball? The best ability is availability, and to try to stay up there. I think the little difference for me from some of my contemporaries, like let's take a guy like Jim Cosmore. He's from Michigan, Chicago. That area, and he's worked in Philadelphia, San Francisco, Sacramento. He would go from place to place and move up the chain. But that was never an option for me. I've had opportunities to work in other markets, but it's not Florida Dave or New York Dave or
Carmichael Dave doesn't translate to Atlanta, does it?
It doesn't. And I was born and raised here. I went to school here. My parents are here. My family's here. It was either make radio work in Sacramento or don't do radio anymore. So I've been really blessed and lucky to be able to stay here. But in my business, that doesn't usually happen. Even Grant, Bowling Green, New York, and
sure,
here,
Decatur, Illinois. Really, Channel 31 got breaks. But I mean, I was known Grant for forever. And some of the stuff he did, and of course. I always said, as you know, Grant's unique in every area.
It's my guy.
I mean, I was going to say, I was reading a thing, and I thought it was interesting where, with one of your first jobs, and you would call him Mr. Napier for a long time.
Yes, I did.
And I may have to start calling Grant Mr. Napier. I think he is worthy of that respect.
I think at some point, you probably don't remember. I guarantee you, I probably called you Mr. Reynolds. That's how I was raised.
Yeah, I think you did. Yeah.
That's how I was raised.
Yeah, no, I get that. And I'm just, really, I was too, really, where your elders are.
That's how I raised my kids.
Yeah, and I always say the years I worked for years in Georgia at West Georgia University and coached down there a long time, or not 4 years, and it was so neat at that time. That's back in the '70s, but everything was yes sir, no sir.
Yeah.
Teaching classes. I mean, just so respectful.
Yes.
Now I know that's probably changed to some degree even there, but it was so much different.
I liked it, and
Oh,
I still
loved
do.
it. I loved it.
I will call people sir and ma'am if I'm not too familiar with them, or if they're in a place of authority. I think we put a very now we're really going to sound old, but I tell my kids this all the time. They're 12 and 11, and I say, there are a lot of things you can't control in how people perceive you, but it's so easy to be polite and respectful. A thank you, a please, you're welcome, sir, ma'am, Mr., Mrs. Those are such easy things, and I think it's so scarce these days that it really does make you stand out as a quality person if you just treat people with a little bit of respect.
Well, you always say too. So a lot of people, they're always saying, respect me. I demand. Well, respect others first.
That's right.
Respect will come back. It always does. I just one thought on the. Obviously I'm an old guy, but you were just mentioning, how it might come off as young people. But when I was young, there were still most of the young people at my age, wouldn't make the sacrifices then either.
Sure.
So it really hasn't changed. I can't say that necessarily the
Right.
young people today are any different. You have a certain percentage that will understand that you've got to go the extra mile to get the extra mile, and it was that same way. When I was a kid, I mean, I think that the way I was taught growing up, my dad, like I've said before many times, is that his philosophy was, and I come home bitching about my first job. I was making $6 a day, raking sand traps in the golf course and mowing the bunkers.
Sure.
And I was, this is a crappy job, $6 a day, Jesus, working hard. And he said, let me tell you something, boy. You give them $7 a day, and you'll advance in life.
Right, exactly.
You give them more than they're paying you.
And
I've always thought that, I didn't quite get it at the time.
Sure.
But, but that's really the way it needs to be.
Well, and your dad I'm sure your dad lived through the Depression too.
Yes.
So I think with my grandparents, same thing. They instill, I think people from that era will very much instill, hey, $6 a day may not be $6,000 a day, but it's a job.
It's a job.
It's a respectful job.
It's a job, and they're paying you to work. So,
Right.
So be good at it.
Plus, $6 a day raking golf courses. What was that in 1850? That's a lot of money.
You had to, didn't you?
Respect my elders.
There was I think at that time minimum wage was 80 cents an hour.
Oh, my goodness.
So it was really $6.40 or something like that. Yeah, but it was enough.
Right.
I mean, it was actually, the truth is, that was kind of spending money for college. I had a scholarship,
Right.
And later on, and so that would, whatever I made there,
Sure.
I was able to save
Right.
most of it.
Right.
Other, little gas money and sneak a few beers here and there that Dad didn't know about.
Nah.
But
Right.
yeah,
Not you.
No, not me. No, not me. But now I noticed too that now in some of the interviews you mentioned Steve Goss, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now he had an influence in your career as well.
Well, I always say, I say, I mentioned Steve. Steve's a guy that nobody, unless you work where I work, knows. But it was my introduction to the radio business. I was an intern. I had called in for so long that Mike Ramey finally gave me an internship, and I was 17 or 18. I didn't get my driver's license till I was 18, so I think I was actually 17 because my dad dropped me off at the old KHTK studios on Madison Avenue. It was, when you start out, you get all the funky shifts. So I was doing a Saturday morning internship, and that's when all the fishing. In fact, the fishing shows are still on. Sepp and Kent Brown and all those guys were doing their morning shows. The cars are, and I didn't know what I was. All I knew is I had an internship. I didn't know what it entailed. So my dad drives up in his prize 1966 baby blue Cadillac Seville.
Ooh.
Thing was a house, right? Had the top down, pulls up. He wanted to impress the cars are, I think. So he pulls in. I get there. I call on the little phone for them to let me in. And Steve Goss opens the door. And Steve Goss at the time was running the control boards for all the radio stations. He now controls all the commercials that run. He's the money man. And so he opens the door and shakes my hand, introduces himself. He says, "Follow me, step into my office." And we go in to a swinging door, and it turns out his office was the men's bathroom. And he steps over to the urinal and starts doing his business while I'm sitting on the sink. And he goes, "All right, let me break down the rules for you real quick." And here I am. This guy is doing his thing. I'm sitting here, 17 years old, going, "What is going? This really? This is it?" And he's giving me all the rules and regulations and everything. And that was my that was my introduction to the radio business. I knew right then that media is a strange animal. People, if they're not in it, don't understand. And everybody's got to be. It's like hockey players and mixed martial artists. You got to be about 20% crazy to do it. And that was my introduction, and I still work with him today. I'm very big on mentors, Jerry. I'm very big. You know this. You know that I think the world of you, and you know that my respect for you, and you know Grant's a huge mentor to me. I think relationships and continued relationships are very important, and I think that people that have been around the block, that have seen things, if I can sponge knowledge, information, advice off of them, I'm a better man for it. So whether it's a guy like Steve, you, Grant, or many of the other people in my life, I try to keep those people that I love and respect close to me so that I can call them or call on them if I have a problem. And I think that's a pretty good philosophy to have.
Oh, I do too. I think one thing that a lot of people kind of miss on that, though, is it's like you say, is make sure the mentors can help you.
Right.
I always said, just my years in college and coaching and professional, being around professional, a lot of times the mentors you choose aren't really the ones you should choose.
Sure.
And or any profession, you can get caught up with the wrong so-called leadership or lack thereof, and it can take you down the wrong paths, and I think you're right. It's like, this guy, this person can really help me. I can learn from them. A good person, got all the qualities I'm looking for. Well, that can work, but it's also true, and I think, and probably most people, I know certainly I have, where I've kind of picked the wrong ones a few times too. Fortunately, it's like, I don't really want to be like this guy.
I think that's fascinating from your point of view, having coached so much. I remember hearing a story. There was I sure won't say who it was, but I'm sure you've experienced this with your teams before. There was a player on a Kings team a while back who was a fan favorite and was a player favorite. The players loved this person, kind of a average player, but the problem the coaching staff had that I later found out was that he wasn't the best mentor. He wasn't the best example. And so I can't imagine the problem that a coach would face, knowing that teams and locker rooms glide towards certain players, and if they glide towards those wrong players, you got to do something real quick. And you can't always trade people in real life, but on a team, it's different. When you're in college, especially, you can't trade those players. No. You're stuck with them. But I imagine that's a difficulty a lot of coaches have to deal with.
Well, it is, and it's a reasonably common. Human nature being what it is. Yeah. You'll have people that have an agenda that doesn't necessarily fit the best benefits of the team.
Right.
In other words, so they, are looking to advance themselves some way at the expense of someone else, and so you've kind of got to be quick to kind of spot that a little bit. That, that Joe Fiducial's wanting more playing time, and if he can get this young guy that's maybe more talented to get him screwed up, absolutely, it's real. Well, it's like the old thing I always tell young players, it's like most young players, just like young people, they come in the league and they're upset about, I didn't only played 20 minutes tonight instead of 30.
Sure.
It's like, what you need to be concerned about is career. Mm-hmm. Not tonight.
Right.
Not a few minutes tonight.
Right.
But if you can stay in the league a long period of time, you will be wealthy.
Right.
Even if you're not very good, you will be wealthy.
Right.
That ought to be what you're thinking about, and to get guys thinking differently as opposed to, oh man, I need to play more. Well, figure out a way to stay in the league, and it'll work for you. And if you keep, being a whiner and a complainer and this, that, and the other, a lot of talented guys play 3 or 4 years instead of 10 years.
That's right. And you got to watch out. That Joe Fiducial's a troublemaker.
Joe Fiducial, I tell you, he's a cancer. Just an absolute cancer.
You got to get rid of him.
Hey, I got to ask you another question. Now, your dad is a big Florida State
Yes.
Now, did that translate to you?
Oh, yeah. In fact,
Okay.
I was wearing a Florida State cap this morning. My mom and dad are both Florida State grads. My dad was born in Nyack, New York, upstate. My mother, the Bronx. They went down to FSU, and then my dad was drafted into service, went to Vietnam, came back, was stationed at McClellan Air Force Base here in Sacramento, and then was sent to Guam to be the I'm going off on a tangent now to be the territorial auditor of Guam. He was working for the U.S. Treasury at a law school, and turns out that he actually indicted the government in Guam back in '74.
Wow.
A lot of these guys were locals, had been in power for a long time, but there was just massive fraud, embezzlement, racketeering, all that stuff. And Guam's a U.S. territory. So he was in the middle of a case against them, and they started to get death threats over there, my mom and my dad. So my mom said, "I'm going back to Sacramento. You can come or you can stay here, but screw it. I'm pregnant. I'm going back." Well, it turns out I was a 3-month preemie. And had I been born in Guam, I wouldn't have made it. I was born dead. They had to give me 7 blood transfusions and either fly me to. There were 2 hospitals that could handle me, Houston and Oakland. So I got flown to Oakland Children's Hospital, where they saved my life, the Shriners Hospital. Had we been in Guam,
You'd been
we wouldn't be doing this podcast right now.
The legend of Carmichael Dave would not have happened.
Not at all. No. I'd have been.
Wow.
I'd have been worm food. So, anyways, to your point, bringing it all full circle, them being FSU grads. I was too dumb to go to college. That and finding girls and beer in high school, I just had a different territory. So growing up, we didn't have really.
And what's wrong with that?
Nothing.
Okay.
I mean, hey, you could turn out like me.
I had a few of those issues myself.
Well, you went a different road yourself, which turned out fine. But the closest thing we had to a family religion in our household was Florida State football, which gravitated to basketball and baseball. But Bobby Bowden was a godlike figure to me growing up. I was blessed to be living in a time where Florida State football was doing really well.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, really, probably more godlike today.
Very much, very,
he was
very much. But I'm a diehard. It's the first team I ever really rooted for. I mean, when you have parents that both are grads, I had no choice.
Well, sure, no. If you wanted to live and eat, and
yes,
and
I was a Seminole fan.
Sure.
I'm just glad they didn't go to Middle Western Tennessee, Kentucky State or something. We actually are relevant in sports. But
Siwash, A&M or something.
Wait, no, this is perfect. What is you do this once a year on the broadcast? IUPUI.
IUPUI
Is it Indiana University, Purdue? Damn it!
Indiana University, Purdue University at Indianapolis.
Every year you do it, and every year I promise I'll remember it. I never do.
Only Indiana could screw something like. I mean, it's like really, pick a school, pick one of them. Indiana University at Indianapolis Extension. I mean, we get that.
IUPUI
and George Hill's from there.
That's right.
Yeah,
George Hill.
A very very good player.
Yes, sir.
But I mean, that is one of the classics, and because I know Grant's always playing with me. So
yes.
You've been to that. Yeah, I said just about every campus in America, whether it's been, Wofford or Davidson or Franklin College or wherever. At one time or another, I think I've been there just about, which is, partially a misspent adulthood, I think, in some ways.
Of course. How much do you miss, I want to turn it around just for a quick second, because, growing up idolizing you guys, I know you did it long enough, and you had enough of the grind. And Doug's doing such a phenomenal job.
He's terrific.
You ever miss it?
Not really.
Yeah.
I think I would if I didn't enjoy Doug and Grant so much.
Sure.
And like them so much.
Sure.
So I was really happy.
Right.
That's the way it went.
Me too.
You know what I mean?
That's huge shoes.
I mean, if it had been
on.
somebody I didn't really care for,
right,
I think that would have made a difference. But it's very comfortable, and I still do a few games with Grant, and Doug's such a class act.
You guys are like a couple of old slippers for Kings fans.
So that the only thing I kind of miss a little bit, by doing the pre and post game, you have to get up there earlier, and I always used to like to spend time with because I knew about everybody in the
Sure.
league, especially coaches from the other team and assistants.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of information, and I think most people kind of trusted me, so I'd have some
Sure.
kind of inside. So you kind of you miss a little bit of that, of course.
Right.
And I don't really have the relationship with the players that I used to have because of the timing of the show. You really don't have time to go in the locker room and hang around and that sort of thing. Not that I was a hang-arounder per se, but I enjoyed, a lot of, young guys that are good guys that want to be players. I always enjoy that. So that part you miss a little.
What about the walks in the cities?
Oh, I do miss that a little bit. When it's good weather. I mean, there's nothing better than walking the Boston Commons and Boston or Central Park in New York, things like that. I really do like that when you have good weather, and of course there's nothing worse when it's bad weather. But
You still have the pants you had to buy when you forgot your pants on the road?
Yes, I do. They're in a secret place. They will be on my body when they put me away
Right.
for the
Most expensive pants you ever bought.
Oh yeah. Well, what Dave's talking about? Years ago, we were doing a game in Memphis, and it was just a terrible rainstorm, and we were staying in a place called the Peabody Place, really a nice hotel, if there is such a thing in Memphis.
Sure. Grant's favorite city.
Yeah, and mine too. And so anyway, I found out I didn't pack a pair of slacks, and so I went down. They had a clothing store in the place.
Sure.
And it's supposedly the place where Elvis went.
Yes.
For 100 years ago.
Right.
But anyway, so I got a pair. I didn't even ask because it's rush hour. I said, you got to get them, tailored and everything,
Yeah.
so I can wear them in a few hours.
Sure.
I said, sure. And then I went down to pick them up, and $286. And I was thinking, like $80 or something, or $100. I was ready for that. I just about wet my pants. It's like
You didn't call Mrs. Reynolds.
Oh no, I didn't know. I didn't tell her.
You didn't tell
her. No. She'd have said, "Well, you just wear your pajamas or something, or jeans."
Filled from the waist up.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So I got them. And then it just, just took the joy out of the whole trip, But like I told her, I said, we've got them in a special place.
Yes, glass casing.
Of course, what I've told her is that. I don't want anything special when I pass. A pyramid would be okay.
Right, of course.
Right. There's room for another one somewhere.
I think so. Nice sarcophagus, a pyramid, and all that.
Sure. So I don't want to go to any extra trouble for me, but something like that.
I always tell my wife, I say I want to be buried in a king's draped coffin so that they can let me down one last time.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah,
Hopefully by then,
they
will have turned it around.
Well, that's that's one of the things I've got to where I've got so much King stuff and probably like yourself and of course I walk every day, and when the team's going good, I'm a front runner.
Sure.
So I got all my King's gear on, and all that. I'm out there prancing, puffed up like a little toad.
Yeah.
And then, when it's going like it has been so often, then you won't find any, I'll just kind of hide.
People look at you. Yeah, I find when they're losing and I'm wearing King's gear, people talk to me like I'm in an old folks home. They're like, "Hey, so good to be a fan of them, huh?" They're talking to me like I'm 4 years old, and I'm we have a team, they have uniforms and everything.
But it is amazing. I think we've talked about this before. I mean, how nice fans are. I know I go to Safeway or something, grocery shop, and they'll want to come up and ask me questions. And they said, like, we don't want to offend you, but you probably are tired about talking. I said, no, I never get tired about talking basketball.
Sure.
I don't know anything else.
Right.
I had no life.
Right.
So ask away. But I mean, they're so
great.
I mean, there's always been a one or two.
Sure. Bad apples.
I mean, that's by nature. But overall, just really
they're great.
Delightful people. That's I think they just deserve so much better. That's the only problem.
This place, I mean, we saw it in the early 2000s when we were on the cusp.
Oh boy!
I'm biased. I just don't know of another city that would go absolutely on its head like this one for a championship team.
Yeah, I don't know either. That's a great question. I mean, I always said it reminds me of just growing up in Indiana, the love of basketball in that state and every high school and college. Sure. I mean, it's just unique. A religion, kind of like Texas football or something, a very similar type thing. And I said, but you've had that here with since professional level from day one. And I'm sure your father remember. I mean, the team coming in the little arena, and all that. And I've always said there's never been an atmosphere before or since in the NBA like that building.
No.
10,333. And I mean, I always remember once as an assistant coach with Bill Russell, and Willis Reed was the other assistant. And back in those days, 2 was the most you had. But we were, I think it's the second game of the year, and we were Milwaukee was just pummeling us at home. We were down 34 with about 8 minutes to go. And I think we made a basket, and fans were, they were chanting like, and Bill turned to me and said, Don't they know that we're not going to win?
We didn't care.
I said, I think they know that. They don't care. They just want to see this team play better. And I said, it's just a remarkable thing.
I was 7 when they came out here. Just old, that golden year, the golden years for, I think, sports for any little boys, 7 to 13, 14, where you really, your childhood heroes are playing. And those were some of my first memories. I remember the very first game, and we played the Clippers at home, and Derek Smith beat us.
Derek Smith beat us.
I remember, so in my room at my parents' house, I made an entire wall, which was nothing but wallpaper of, my dad would get done with the paper, because God forbid I touch the sports page before he's done with it.
Well, that's the way it should be, too.
But at night,
at that time,
when he was done, he was moved on to the crossword. I finally got the sports page, and I would take scissors. My mom got me, and I would very carefully cut out the headline and the picture, and my entire wall was nothing but mostly losses, but Kings cutouts. And I still remember, up until we moved them out about 4 years ago from that house, the very first headline was Coronation Clipped. And it was a picture of Derek Smith and a couple other Kings in there. And then just moving on through the memories growing up, like you said, 10333, the first Interstate Bank ads on the wall. I
forgot that. Yeah.
The baby blues and obviously all the ups and downs we had. But I went back there and looked, just a few years ago, and everything from coach from Larry Bird missing the free throws.
He missed 2 of them.
Two of them.
2 of them. I think it's about the only time in his career.
My God, the roof came off. Yeah. From the highs like that to, of course, Ricky Berry, Bobby Hurley. The trades, just seeing all the ups and downs.
Yeah, the good, team. The bad, and the ugly, so to speak.
Couldn't root for anybody else.
Yeah, no,
it's part of the fabric of the city.
I would say, there's so many memories there. Like Greg Lucasville going up during a rainstorm.
Oh my goodness, and the flannel.
And I was, I said, he's going to fall and go splat.
Yeah,
and. But that was coaching that, and I said, tried to stop the rain, and did. I mean, there's a leak in the roof.
It worked.
A whole bit.
Speaking of going splat, too.
I was thinking, too, it reminded me of the Larry Bird thing, missing those 2 free throws. That was the only time that since I've known him, that he had to buy the beer.
Exactly.
We always had a little bet, whoever loses.
That's funny.
That's a thing, but
he didn't lose that often back then, especially to us.
No, he'd and he'd make kind of like me. He'd make sure you remembered.
You do about that's an Indiana thing.
Yeah.
I had you on my wall too. Speaking of falling down, I had that picture there too. You got the technical foul called on you.
Technical foul.
People don't realize this. You faked it. You were calling out the ref. That was a tremendous acting job on your part.
Absolutely. I went to a lot of trouble to get to win that game.
Wait, was that a win?
Yeah.
You guys won.
We won.
So
Harold Presley.
Wow.
Harold, always tell Harold, he made a shot at the buzzer to win. I said, I went to a lot of trouble to make you the hero.
That's hilarious. Jerry, I forgot whether it was a win or a loss.
Yeah, and the other part, the interesting part of that was that Mike Schuler was the coach of Portland at that time. And, of course, they were really good.
Sure.
And we weren't, but we beat them. And then Mike got fired. Later on, Mike became one of our assistants and a really good guy, good coach. But I always tell him, I said, Mike, man, you see what I had to do to get you fired? And they rescinded the technical.
They did, thank goodness.
Of course, if they hadn't have, then we wouldn't have.
Well, what was the fine back then? Do you remember?
I think about $500. But at that time, the team would generally would pay for it.
Oh, okay.
I was kicked out of a few games
Sure.
and got a few technicals. So, but the team, of course, I wasn't making that much money.
Right.
So the team would always pay for it. Now they can't. They're not allowed to do that.
Oh,
so,
okay.
an answer to that is, would I ever get kicked out of a game today? Nothing could get me kicked out.
No.
The officials could come over and spit in my face, kick me in the
You're
groin.
good.
I'd
You're
say,
fine.
Wonderful.
Yeah, wonderful. Or,
Good job,
or
fellas.
wonderful. If they kicked you. By the way, for those that are not over 40 like us, this was when Jerry passed out on the sideline when he was coaching, and I had completely forgot. And they gave him a technical foul because they thought he was mocking the referees.
I had a kind of a history of jerking the referee's chain a little bit, and so
Not that time, though.
but not that time. No.
And so the Kings, did you ever think about this? So you've always been a team first guy. There's nothing you haven't sacrificed. Sacramento Kings are undefeated in games you've passed out in. I'm wondering why you didn't pass out more.
I think a lot of people was hoping that would be the case.
Just saying.
Just to be honest.
Could have won a title.
Yeah, and I thought, well, it was a good way to get out of the parking lot quick. I'll say that.
Right.
I mean, so you always got to look at the positives, Dave.
Yeah, you always got to look on the bright side.
I got out of the parking lot pretty quick. And
What was it? Did you not eat that day or something?
no,
I
you
never
know,
asked you.
There is a kind of a long story, not particularly interesting, maybe, I don't know. But I'd been on doing some commercials for, and I can't remember what diet thing it was. I mean, there's several different ones, but I can't remember which one.
Gotcha.
And so I was doing that, and I'd lost some weight, and of course, the coaching part, not sleeping, all that.
Oh, yeah.
So really, there's 2 or 3 games before that game, I'd get dizzy.
Sure.
And I'd start, seeing the old green squiggly things.
Yeah.
And I'd be up making a fool of myself, yelling or whatever. Then I could go sit down and
Right.
let it go away. Well, this time I always remember there's a foul called on Joe Klein on the other end of the floor, which he probably deserved, but I was but I didn't think so. So I was, making a butt of myself as usual.
Sure.
Yelling at the officials. And I got about to half court. And all of a sudden started, I'm seeing these. And I said, I got to go sit down.
Right.
And the next thing I knew, the trainer was getting ready to give me mouth-to-mouth.
Oh, my goodness.
And because I always remember waking up and kind of, or at least have enough sense to say, do not put those lips on me.
Right. If I'd rather die.
Yeah, I'd much rather go right now. But anyway, yeah, so that's the way it was. Yeah.
No idea.
But so
Wow.
I mean, it's like a lot of men in particular, kind of hard-headed about
Sure.
health things.
Yep.
When I'll be all right.
Yeah.
It'll go away.
You ignore it.
Yeah, ignore it, and that's so that's what it was. But it wasn't, and they thought, I had to wear a heart monitor for a while. I pretty much knew it wasn't a heart monitor or a heart problem because I didn't have any pain.
But I bet you got every test, poked, needle, everything that day.
Yeah, I know. And then the national media,
Of course.
it was a big deal
Yeah.
that way. So
yeah.
Anyway, we got the win.
We got the win.
We
That's
got
all
the
that
win.
matters.
Hey, do it again, baby.
Do it again.
But like you said, I should have thought about that.
Right. We should talk to Luke. See if he'll
say,
test
hey,
it out.
Luke, are you up to going down for the team?
Fines are a little more these days.
So now in high school, did you play sports at all?
I did. I was a big time, big into pitching. I was a baseball pitcher.
Oh, okay.
Also played basketball all through school up to about everything kind of fell apart my junior year, Jerry, because like I said, I found
Other things.
But all the way through my junior year, loved to play basketball and baseball. Decided not to play football. I love football, but I love basketball and baseball more, and I just didn't want to snap a leg, although I did in both baseball and basketball. But my first love playing was basketball. That was the game that was the most fun for me, and I was 6'4", 6'5", from 8th grade on. I was a pretty tall kid. I stopped, thank goodness, but I was a big man, and but I was better at baseball. I had a pretty decent arm, but just fell in love with the game. For all I know, I don't know. I've thought about this a lot, Jerry. If Sacramento got in a baseball team instead of a basketball team, would I be as into baseball, which I still am, but would I be as religious about it as I am about basketball? I don't know. But I love sports, played soccer growing up too. It's always been a part of my life.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Now, what high school did you go to?
So I started out at Mariloma High School, and then my freshman year, end of my freshman year, I transferred to Rio Americano, both in Well, I think Mariloma was actually on the edge of Sacramento Carmichael, but Rio's in Carmichael was closer to our house.
My son went to Rio.
Oh, did he? Okay. See, we always had to deal with Jesuit down the street, which was private and rich, and they got to leave campus at lunchtime, and they could drive their cars to the Burger King or Taco Bell. We had to stay and eat our dumb, whatever sandwich we made at home, and they kicked the hell out of us in pretty much most sports. But I loved it. It was good people, good times. It was a good town to grow up in. Good place to go to school.
Oh yeah, no question. I know my son really had a great experience there. He'd been in. Because we'd happened to move a couple of times, and he'd been to a couple of different high schools that didn't really work out near as well. But he really enjoyed playing for the coach there, Al Manfredi.
Al Manfredi. I went there too. So what year was your son? I was 93.
I think about 89.
Okay, so a little older than me. So Al was still there coaching when I was there as well. Good involvement, good parents.
Really. I was going to say it really worked. We lived. At that time on Eastern and Fair Oaks. A little house right on Eastern.
Yes, sir.
And my wife didn't like it because of the traffic, but I thought it was great. We never had a door-to-door salesman or anybody because they'd be dead.
Sure, right, exactly. You had all that there.
But until then when my son graduated, then we moved out. We've been in Roseville.
Okay.
Pretty much ever since.
Same with me.
I really liked it. If it had been up to me, we'd have stayed in that area probably. But
Eastern and Fair Oaks. I'm trying to think. I know there's a bar near there called Ernie's Interlude. I'm not sure. I know.
Yeah, that's up on Arden.
Oh, that's up on Arden. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's right. We was right almost near Fair Oaks.
Did you notice how Jerry knew? He knew exactly what.
No.
That's on Arden. Yeah.
Oh, one other story I got to tell you.
Okay.
You're Carmichael Dave, but I think it's about 5 years ago, I was Carmichael Man of the Year.
What?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I said, that's a really nice honor considering I don't live in Carmichael or haven't even been near there in about 30 years.
I've never even been nominated for Carmichael Man of the Year. That's fantastic.
Well, it was certainly undeserved, but I mean, it's like, but I just have to think of that. It's like, no.
Yeah.
Why? Come on.
So are you trying to maybe get the trifecta, go for Fair Oaks, Roseville Man of the Year, down the road? Rockland.
Well, I think Citrus Heights first, since I've never actually been there either.
Right.
Or at least not in a long time. So I would think, I would.
Just places you've never lived?
Places I've never lived.
I never knew you lived in Carmichael.
Yeah.
Vlade lived in Carmichael too for a long time.
Yeah.
Right down the road.
No, like I say, I really enjoyed it, but I could say it seemed like, well, if I deserved to be Carmichael Man of the Year, it shouldn't have been when I was actually in Carmichael.
That's awesome.
I mean, if in fact I deserved it, which I didn't see any reason I would. But,
so Indiana Hall of Fame, Carmichael Man of the Year.
Yeah. Oh my God, it just keeps coming.
The awards are just.
But anyway, I think we're probably getting pretty close here to the end. But I definitely want to say this because at some point I'd love to have you come back later on and we talk about especially all your efforts in the Kings. The Seattle and
when my wife booted me out of the house for a month.
Booted you out, all that. I think that would require a lot more in depth talk. But I did want to kind of get people to know Carmichael Dave and like I say, I've met your father. I really enjoy him.
He loves you.
Yeah,
he loves you. He I'm not sure when people will see this, but he had a stroke the week before Thanksgiving, and my mom was already she's had health problems. She's been in and out of the hospital for years. She was actually in. He had a stroke. First health problem he's ever had, and really scary. He actually called me in the middle of it, and I had to call the paramedics. He was at a McDonald's eating a sausage McMuffin, and just on the way to the car started feeling it. So she got discharged. This was the Sunday before Thanksgiving. She got discharged from the hospital 2 hours before he got there. They would have had a room together. And the point of the story is we're now into week 5. He's made an amazing recovery. They're both at a skilled nursing facility, which is like a halfway house before they get to come home.
Yeah.
So we got to check them out like a couple of library books for Christmas Day and bring them home, and which is just amazing, the recovery they've both made. But during the whole thing, I got to spend, just a lot. I always see my parents, but a lot of time with my dad. We would watch Kings games. I would bring my tablet in, and we'd get the game on. And I even in the beginning parts where he was really struggling, I'd have the iPad up. We'd watch you, Grant, Doug, and even before his emotions were getting back to normal, his biggest emotions would come with the ups and downs of the game. And I would say to you, that I'm sure that is just one of many experiences, as living here for so long. Guys like you, guys like Grant, that team, it's not just about basketball and that RV trip and everything we'll talk about next time.
Yeah.
It's such a woven fabric.
Oh, absolutely.
Fathers and sons, mothers and daughters, it means so much more than just an orange ball through a hoop.
Oh, absolutely does. And like I say, it deserves kind of its own special discussions, I think.
Before I go, I did come to plug something here.
A plug.
Want to do plug my new book, Tales from the Sacramento Kings Locker Room, right here. As you can see, collection of the greatest Kings stories ever told. I think this will be a good exclamation point at the end of what I just said, because this is your book.
Yeah.
And you were nice enough to inscribe, put an inscription in there for my son, Mason. Oh, wow, I didn't. Oh, you swore a couple times. Wow, he's not. Wow, okay.
That's not true.
But my son just turned 11, and he is. I have passed on, and sometimes I feel bad about this. I didn't have a choice, Jerry. I was going to be a Kings fan no matter what. I have, much like my parents had me be Florida State fans, I have now forced this on my children. I'm not necessarily sure I did the right thing with all we've gone through.
Yeah, it might be,
But as I just told you, between what you've meant to me over the years, always having a conversation, being a sounding board, and this is after me growing up watching you from the time I was 2 years younger than my son is now, watching those games with my dad after he had his stroke and helping him recover. And then now for Christmas, giving my son your book, and then I'll bring it home to him today and have you, and you inscribed it. That's that woven fabric of families that I think makes everything so special.
Nice. Yeah, well, thank you. And
thank you.
Thank Mason. But anyway, it's been a blast. And Carmichael Dave, obviously an icon in this city, and certainly going to be an icon for many more years. And we really appreciate you coming. And
appreciate you.
Hopefully you've enjoyed the show as well. Thank you.